I do hope that I'm live. I think it should be live by now. Let me just double check on the old phone because there is that few second delay. How are we going? Guys, as promised. So I talked yesterday. So we're talking about videos and how to make videos. So if you go back last week, you see some tips that I put in about, people were saying, how do I start with videos? So I've put in some tips of how to start. Then we talked about how to add images. We've talked about how to add some little video clippings and also how to add some music. And then I showed you an example of how to do that. So yesterday I talked about to script or not to script. That is the question. And I mentioned that I would bring to you today the BLOT. So it was a script I talked about. So I'm going to go through 3 key things around the BLOT and explain it to you. But first I wanted to just revisit that to script or not to script. That is the question, to start paraphrasing from Shakespeare. But the thing about it is, if you don't script in some way, shape or form, then you're never going to talk to who you need to talk to. What happens is sometimes if we haven't got an idea of who we're going to talk to, especially when you're creating videos, we end up consuming the message ourselves. And what I mean by that is we're actually talking to ourselves. We're thinking, oh, this feels good. This is what I'm going to talk about. And you know what you mean. Quite often, maybe the other person doesn't. So we sometimes brush over things because we have an assumption of what we mean. So therefore, we're assuming that that audience already knows too. So you have to really do the work and know exactly who it is that you're talking to before you go to put the video together. Otherwise, it's a great skill to build, but it is just a skill of video editing. It's not actually putting it together in a way that's going to convert and work for you. So I hope that makes sense. So quite often we can, and look, I've done it myself. We get out to a Facebook Live and it's yabba, 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 and we rabbit on. And we consume our own message because we think, oh, it would be awesome if somebody had told me this a long time ago. And remember, communication is not about what you say. It's actually about what they hear. So if you're not communicating the message to the right message to the right person at the right time, they're not going to hear it in how you're intending it, unless you actually get into their map of the world and know how they're showing up, where they're consuming their information, etc., etc. So that's a whole other thing to talk about, how to dig deep and understand that. But I just wanted to kind of overview that with to script or not to script. That's why we really need to script to make your videos high converting videos. They have to be able to communicate a message to your ideal target market compared to obviously the solution that you offer in a way that they consume it in their map of the world in how it's intended. I hope that makes sense. So getting back to the BLOT. So at the moment, if I do check down here, I'm checking my phone because again, there's that little bit of a delay. So just in case there are any comments or anything like that, I will try and check it. If not, I will get back to the comments afterwards. So let's go to the BLOT. So I explained it briefly yesterday. The BLOT is a script, a version of a script. So there's templates for lots of things. We share them with our members quite often, and we have a 2-day video workshop coming up where we actually go through the BLOT and the structure of it. So BLOT just stands for bottom line on top. So quite often we put a bit of a teaser in and we talk about stuff and then we give the bang, the big promise at the bottom. So when you're doing video in particular for ones that you want to have an effect and you want to use in your sales, or some kind of promo, you need to actually put that big promise up the top. So bottom line on top, make the big promise up the top. You only get 7 to 10 seconds to actually get your key message in there. So it needs to be something that interrupts. Some of the great ways of doing that are actually contrast. Think about somebody who was bald, now they have hair, or if it was in the weight loss industry, they're great for doing it. So there's before and after pictures. So contrast, novelty are great ways of doing it. So you need to know what's the ultimate thing that your person that you're targeting this to, so avatar, ideal target market, whatever word you want to put on it, What is the ultimate thing that they want to experience right now? One thing. So stick to the one thing. So that's 7 to 10 seconds, but that in relationship, obviously, to the product or service that you supply. There's no point in saying, oh, you want to do weight loss and you don't have anything to do with weight loss or mind or anything like that. Your product is different. Well, then there's a mismatch. So it's in relationship with the product or service that you actually help them with. Resist the temptation, which is some of old marketing, again, where I just reiterate, resist that temptation to give them the story and the promise at the end. For this, please put the promise up the top. That'll make the difference. So that's number one part of the BLOT. Number two is the rest of the script then supports your core message. So it's one sentence, one idea. Please, and I've done, again, this myself, this is how I can talk about it. I've tried to ram so much stuff into one thing, but try and keep it simple and talk about one thing. So you're promising one thing, and then you're going to give them evidence in the rest of it to support that one thing and how you can do it. And there's a structure in that. And then number three, and you really need to have this, guys, we really need to have them, is a very clear, simple call to action. You need to tell people where to go. So you've made a big promise, you've proven it and told them how you can help them. Now they need to know where to go. And all this can be done. Look how quickly I can talk. Look how quickly I'm sure you can talk. But all of this can be done quite quickly and succinctly with images and, you know, words on a screen or people talking, whatever way you choose to do your video. But they need to know. So they've been somewhat engaged by your message. They say, yes, I want it. Well, where do they go? Please, please stop this right away. Is giving them 5 or 6 different options. Stop it, stop it, stop it. One very clear call to action is all that's required. So it may be click here, download here, private message here if you're on social media. Could be various different things, but make sure it's clear, it's easy, and it's one call to action. Do not make it that they have to click here, they have to go somewhere else and click there, and somewhere else to click there. People will say no, and you put too many gates in the way, and they actually won't engage. So depending on the purpose of your video, be very clear. So sometimes some of the videos are just, for example, to get email addresses. So the call to action may be click here, we'll send you a free whatever your product is. So I hope that makes sense. So the BLOT is very much about bottom line on top. The script or not the script is very much a yes. 7 to 10 seconds, you get to actually make an impact with your bottom line on top. Number two is support that message, that first promise, with the rest of what's on in your video. And number three is a very clear call to action. So 100% you need to script any video that you're doing in a way that will talk directly to your ideal client. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, because I will be adding some more tips about videos and scripting and how to bring it all together. And if you have any specific questions in the meantime, make sure that you put them in a comment or send me a private email. See, that's 2 different choices. Make sure you put a comment below this video with your questions. So for now, guys, it's bye from me.